to One Quick Question with Infomedia, your source for answers to your questions about websites, digital marketing, and more. I'm your host, Carrie Rollwagon. So today we are welcoming back to the podcast Clay Connor. Clay, welcome.
Thank you.
What is your title here? And just give us like one example of something that you would do in a normal day.
Well, my title is Director of Business Development, and so my focus is on identifying and shepherding into the fold new clients that we know we can help and serve well, and that our staff is going to enjoy working with.
Awesome. And you do that very well.
Well, thanks.
We do enjoy our clients. Let's get to today's question, which is, can I use old photos on my website? So most companies or organizations or whatever have a lot of photos that come from a lot of different places. Some might have been from like professional photography, but from maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And then we also, of course, have a bunch of iPhone or smartphone photos that have poured in from different places. So all of this, like we all kind of feel like, oh yeah, we have a lot of photos. We have that somewhere. Is that enough, or is that a good starting point for the photos to use on our websites?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can go any direction with this answer. I think it really depends. For example, if you're an architect and you've got old photos of projects you've done in the past, but they were taken at the right resolution, those are still usable and they're still relevant because it shows your experience. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about like headshots, for example, we had a client recently who had old headshots and they were complaining like, oh my gosh, I don't look anything like that anymore. I put on weight. I've lost hair. That was me 20 years ago. Yeah. Obviously that's a different story. Or if you've taken a team photo and you're missing 4 people from the team that no longer are there.
I feel like team photos are tempting fate, in my opinion. It's like as soon as you take them, somebody leaves.
Yes, that happens all the time. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the question, can you use old photos? It depends. But one of the other issues you have with old photos sometimes is it was maybe not taken. Maybe the resolution isn't right, or the quality wasn't right because it was taken. Maybe it was taken with an old piece of technology. The orientation might be wrong. It's more vertical as opposed to horizontal, things of that nature.
And a lot of photos, you may have something that looks fine when it's vertical, and then when you crop in so that it can be horizontal, it just looks like a mess.
Exactly.
So, and sometimes things look fine. Like I'll look at it on my phone and think like, oh, this looks great. And then I would walk to one of the developers' screens and they have it on one of their huge screens. It's like, oh, okay.
Totally.
Now
and then you've got like, the photos that are being used on the homepage, for example, might be you really want it to be like a feature image, but like you're talking about, if it's a vertical image that's been cropped in or something, it becomes like washed out or becomes pixelated. And so, knowing where it's going to be placed on your website, for example, it might help answer that question: is an old photo usable or not?
Well, so if I have old photos, and I know that they're not gonna completely solve the problem, does that mean I have to totally throw them out and invest in all new photography for every part of my business, or like what are the options there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you have to be drastic like that. I mean, it could be that you have to be, but it's one of those things too where you have old photos, and then if you actually go out and hire a photographer to take new photos, is there going to be consistency across those photos, and are they going to look very, very different? So I think it's just a kind of, it depends on the usage, where it's being placed, all of those kinds of things.
Okay, so you say like the consistency is different. What if I have I got some professional photography, and then I have some photos that maybe are something that I can't capture again. Maybe it's those, like an architectural photo, or maybe it's even people. Can I not use those photos because they don't match?
Right. No, that's a good question. You need to hire a magician. No, I'm kidding. There are tools that our photo editors can use to help standardize color. So there's ways that we can help trying to create more consistency between those old and new. So there's a little more of a bridge. So there are. It's not like you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to those old photos. There are options for that.
It's cool too because it's like I'm not as much of a visual person, so I can look at a page that has photos that don't have color standardized really, and I don't know what's wrong, but it feels a little off.
Right.
And sometimes I even think like maybe this is the design or something. And then you look at it again with that standard and you're like, "Oh, that's what it was." And it's cool to see how our photo editors can see that and do that. And it's not even something that I consciously knew is off.
Right.
But you know it when it's right.
Absolutely, yeah. If there are old photos that you want to be able to use on your website, there are tools that will help us be able to know how to, again, standardize color, properly crop in, and properly orient the photos to be on the page they're intended for.
Yeah. Is there any way to prevent getting to this place again? Because I feel like if it's my business, I'm thinking, okay, I invested in photography at one point. Now it's been like 5 years, so I have to do it again. Do you have to wait until all those are out of date and then just do the whole process again?
Yeah. One thing that one of the folks here in our office talk a lot about is just thinking about the future and trying to think through what are the different ways you're going to be using your photos. And so we like to, when our clients have a budget and have kind of that vision, we like to create a full library of photos that can be used in the future. And so an example of that might be, for instance, a restaurant. They do a good job of creating all these different menu items, and they want to be able to show those menu items. And so as they're cooking them and preparing them, we can come in and create images of each of those dishes, and they can be used in the future for social media purposes or the website. And just build a full bank of those things to be able to work with from the future.
Yeah. And then I think we can also do like a schedule, right? So you
Right.
can just say like, okay, let's come 4 times a year, or come every year, or something like that. So it's not getting so out of date.
That's right. And I think it's just having that mindset of continuing to build and add to that library.
Yeah.
And again, having someone that's a professional that knows, hey, I need to be able to use these photos in the future in these
Yeah.
particular ways.
So as far as the question, can I use old photos on my website? It's yes and no.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends.
Well, cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So one quick question is brought to you by Infomedia. And it is developed and hosted by me, Carrie Rollwagon. Our producer is Elena Harmond. Our theme music is Brad Davis. And our guest experts are our incredible staff here at Infomedia. So if you need website support or you need photos, you have some old photos you don't know what to do with, give us a call at 205-823-4440 or find us online at infomedia.com. And I'll leave you with this thought. A real expert helps to clarify, not confuse. So don't take website advice from someone who can't give you a straight answer.